The one I know the most about, obviously, is War Plan Orange, which was a conflict with Japan. It was developed in anticipation of obviously a potential conflict with Japan, and it included naval strategies and troop deployments designed to counter Japanese expansion within the Asia Pacific. And I mean, it was specifically targeting, areas that were of American interest, which obviously, right off the bat, the Philippines, for example. Now, what's interesting is War Plan Red and Orange also saw a combined version of this plan called War Plan Red Orange, which was
How?
America. Oh,
I'm
yeah.
sorry, just wow, great naming.
Well, I mean, they wanted to go with their color-coded idea here, but War
I was
Plan.
just thinking, couldn't someone in the war office just like maybe mix orange and red and just see what happens?
I know. But War Plan Red Orange was America's hypothetical two-front war situation. In their analysis, they envisioned simultaneous conflicts with both Japan and the British Empire because once upon a time there was the Anglo-Japanese alliance, a treaty that, was renewed a few times. And then as we got closer to World War II, Japan cut that treaty with Britain, tragically for them, by the way. It highlighted the logistical challenge to the United States facing a two-front war, and it led to, the prioritization of one front for offense while adopting a defensive posture for the other. Kind of similar to, the Schlieffen Plan for Germany during World War One and a little bit for World War Two. And to be honest, I don't want to go into it too much, but this plan was the one that had the most changes done to it all the way up till a few weeks before the Pacific War hit, because Douglas MacArthur famously didn't like what was called War Plan Orange 3 at the time of the attack in the Philippines. And he had tried to make some last minute changes. And this also has to do with the future rainbow plans, which is another thing altogether. But War Plan Orange, it certainly went over. It went through a lot of developments. At first, it was directed at defending the Panama Canal because they thought that the Japanese would do a surprise attack on the Panama Canal. It ends up changing to Pearl Harbor. They didn't foresee that so much, but yeah. And the Japanese also had always thought they might attack the Panama Canal. If anyone wants to hunt down a book, I forget what year it's written. I think it's in like 1905 or something. It's called The Great Pacific War. And it was this guy who had this theoretical idea that Japan would surprise attack the Panama Canal and cause a global event. And yeah, interesting in retrospect. And Isoroku Yamamoto read it. So yeah, pretty interesting. There was also War Plan Yellow, which was again, it was directed at China, and this was basically in a direct response to the Boxer Protocol, which was the outcome of the Boxer Uprising, the Boxer Rebellion of 1899 to 1901. This was just the United States basically just saying, if China again gets what you would call uppity, how would we go over there and quell what is like the next little rebellion on their part, which is just so sad because I mean, China was literally carved up by so many different powers and abused. It's really disgusting. But the United States thought, they would use their military forces that are already in places like Shanghai or in Tianjin and Beijing and just quell it, probably call up the other great powers who would just all gang up on China because everyone was getting financial like payback from exploiting China. It's really a gross situation. War Plan Gold was an engagement with France for its colonial possessions. For those who don't know, the French, going a long way back, still owned a few of the Caribbean islands, and I mean this was in the sphere of American influence. So if you look at things like
Well, this would be the quickest of the war plans to be completed.
yes and no, it depends on the year, because France could be formidable, given like I don't know, let's say it was on the cusp of World War One or something. France could have annoyed the
Okay,
United
I'm
States.
I'm kind of just putting it in the interwar years since that's
Interwar
where
years,
our
yeah.
discussion.
No, no. Interwar years, all the other countries have been so devastated they couldn't even think about financing a navy. The United States was in a unique position. But like, let's for example, the United States had to actually occupy some of the Caribbean islands in the interwar years, and even in World War One, there was some meddling about because of just fear of civil unrest and stuff, and then these new nations popping up. Because the United States was very sensitive about the independence movements in Latin America because so many countries claimed independence from Spain and stuff, and it got crazy. And it always led to conflict with American interests, like the fruit company, for example. Absolutely evil. Anyone who knows that history, my God, the American exploitation of Latin America should be taught more so in schools. It's really bad. I desist. There was also War Plan Green, super relevant. It's a hypothetical war with Mexico. Some would argue it happened a few times, to be honest. It was termed officially Mexican domestic intervention, and basically it just aimed to eliminate any rebel forces that might spring up in Mexico who might get too unruly, and the Americans might just, install like a puppet president in Mexico to just quell any such things. And yeah, if you look at the histories of World War One, World War Two, there was a lot of tensions. There were kind of attacks over the border. Stuff happened.
So simply put, anything against Pancho Villa.
Exactly. War Plan Indigo was the occupation of Iceland. This actually happened in World War Two. It was in response to Denmark's, when Denmark was occupied by like Germany, for example, in World War Two, the United States had to execute War Plan Indigo to take it because it's strategic and it could be used as a launching pad against the United States, Canada, and other things. It was actually pretty important during the Battle of the Atlantic. And to this day, I mean,
Yeah, I think I'll just add, since you mentioned the Battle of the Atlantic, a lot of the escort groups and merchant ships which were damaged, were escorts that were like, these roving hunter groups of destroyers and frigates
yeah.
that would be not attached to a convoy, but just searching U-boats. They tended to be based in Greenland and Iceland, so
Mhm.
that they would be quicker to respond to threats in the Atlantic air gap.
Yeah. And to this day, the Americans have a very significant amount of military bases in Iceland and are right now, as we speak, seeking the same thing in Greenland. Go figure. So yeah, these war plans are kind of relevant. That's why I wanted to make this episode. There's also War Plan Purple, which was an invasion of the South American republics. And again, it was just if any of these Latin American countries got, uppity, as they would say, the Americans would try to figure out a false flag operation kind of reason and attack or install a pro-American government. There was War Plan Violet, which was another engagement in Latin America. It encompassed, dealings with how to maintain American influence. This has more to do with kind of the markets, how to enforce American policies on these countries. This is more in line with kind of what Teddy Roosevelt was doing back in the day. Kind of, what would he call it? It was the carrying around a big stick policy, I guess you would call it, and giving carrots or beating them up. And there was War Plan White, which was to address a domestic uprising. If you know your American history, think about the bonus army situation. That adopted some War Plan White, or let's say there was a communist insurrection in the United States. They had plans for how to go against their own citizenry and to maintain public order, issue martial law, everything you can imagine. And War Plan Blue, Blue being the United States of America, it was basically just your regular defensive preparations in peacetime. So this was what was always going on. Yeah.
I was just about to say Civil War.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's feasible for War Plan White. There could be another Civil War situation. War Plan Red laid out, as I said, strategies for dealing with the United Kingdom, and it was complemented by the other countries. So Crimson would be codenamed for Canada. There was, like I said, it was Ruby for India, Scarlet for Australia, Garnet for New Zealand, Emerald for Ireland, Pink for all the other colonial possessions.